Welcome back. This is Evangelist Mike McCurry. You're listening to the Bible Tract Echoes radio program, and we are so appreciative of the fact that you would invest a portion of your day, a portion of your week with us right here. Hope you've enjoyed as we've been interviewing my brother-in-law, Austin Marriott, Operations Manager and Lead Designer Extraordinaire for Bible Tracts Incorporated. And if you're curious about and you'd like to see some of the new designs that Austin has created, and thankfully we've been able to do some amazing things. We have, what do we have, Austin? 37, 38 different titles currently, and we've redesigned how many of them so far?
A lot
of them. I put them on the spot.
I would say over 30 of them.
Over 30 of them. Praise the Lord. And we're so thankful for the opportunities and the gifts that God has given Austin and the opportunity he's had to use those for the glory of God here at BTI. Now, in just a moment, we're going to talk about something that we touched on for just a moment yesterday, serving God together with family, but doing it successfully. There's a lot of people, they go to the church with their family, but for some reason, they don't like their family. And that's such a sad thing. And they get together, or maybe they have family, they live far apart, they get together at Thanksgiving, they get together at Christmas, but there's always a tension, there's always a friction there. And thankfully, that's not the case. And so we'd love to talk about that for just a moment here. But before we go any further, talk to us about the gospel tract that you have in your hand. Of course, the purpose of this broadcast is to talk to you about the need for gospel tracts, the usage of gospel tracts, the fact that you can get them for free at BibleTractsInc.org. But this gospel tract you have, it was out of print for a little while, wasn't it?
It was. It had gone out of print, and we looked at it and really enjoyed the content and thought it was a good tract to use. And so we redesigned it and brought it back. As of now, a limited run, but we'll see how people receive it, and if they like it, we'll continue printing it. But this one's called Memorial Stones. It's tract number 61. It has kind of a patriotic Memorial Day type of theme to the design, talking about the scripture verse that the young man, if you remember, talking to his parents or grandparents, what mean ye by these stones? Mm-hmm. Talking about memorial and thinking back and remembering our history, legacy, and thinking back to the markers of old. I love how each one of our tracts brings it to a gospel message and brings it to the point of making a decision for Christ if you're going to trust him with your eternity. That tract does that just so eloquently and very well done. Look at that one again. You can go to our website, BibleTractsInc.org, order tract number 61, Memorial Stones.
Some of the most somber memories of my life is walking through the Arlington National Cemetery. Of course, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, the picture that's kind of in the background of Memorial Stones, you can kind of faintly see it through the text, maybe very well from the Arlington National Cemetery. And so I'd encourage you, has a little bit of an Americana type feel to it. And I think it would be helpful to you if you'd visit BibleTractsInc.org. We'd love to send you some of those completely free. Now, I mentioned we're going to talk about serving God with family. Of course, our father-in-law is our pastor and someone who we both rely on heavily for counsel. We have married sisters. You have married Rachel Woodward, now Marriott. I married Rebecca Woodward, now McCurry. And now we also have the opportunity to work together. Not only that, but at least once a year at the Midwest Christian Boys Football Camp, the whole family is together, and our brother-in-law JJ and Ruth Ann Curtis are with us as well, and all of us serving God alongside each other. But you and I mean, we're sitting in the radio room here together. We talk on the phone almost every day. We work together at BTI. We go to the same church. We work with the live stream and in the music program and with some music projects and things like that. But before we get into the practical application of what you and I do now, talk a little bit more about how your dad raised you in church and how he kind of instilled in you the importance of serving God, but doing it as a family unit. It wasn't just something he went out and did and told you about. It's something he actively had you participate in.
That is true. And really, you kind of hit the nail right on the head. And why I so love working with family and serving with family in ministry is because that's what I've done my whole life. Ever since I was a little kid, I think 3-4 years old, I would go with my dad on the bus route, visiting bus kids and visiting people, inviting them to church, inviting them to ride our church bus that we would provide free transportation for them to come to church. And every Saturday we'd go out and knock on doors, invite people, give people gospel tracts, invite them to church and invite them to ride our bus. But then also through the week, Many times we would be playing in the yard at the church in Prospect Heights. Right to the other side of our yard was all the buses that were parked there that my dad would be working on. And many times there's just pictures upon pictures of me, many times as a young man, sitting there in the wheel well of a bus, or laying under a bus, or sitting on the driver's seat of the bus and sitting there holding the flashlight. I can't tell you how many times I got yelled at for not holding the flashlight where I was looking, not where my dad was looking. So from a very young age, my dad was extremely wise, and he was a hard worker. He had a lot to do, and he worked a lot of long hours. In order for him to be able to influence and impact and teach and train and invest in me, it wasn't, we didn't get a lot of time to be able to go in the backyard and play catch. Now, we did that, and he taught me a lot of things that way, but a lot of time spent with my dad was while he was working, handing him tools and sitting next to him, listening to him as he would teach me different things. And I'm just incredibly blessed that way. And that early age upbringing of that instillment transitioned into my teenage years of me working with him in the plow truck. I remember we used to have a plow truck where it was a manual. And if you ever plowed snow before, you really don't want to plow snow in a manual transmission vehicle, because you have to shift, you have to plow, there's just a lot going on. And so I remember as a young person, probably 12, 13 years old, I would sit in the truck, I would man the plow, I would control the stick of the plow, and my dad would drive the truck. And I spent hours in the truck with him, just plowing snow, and we'd talk and he'd teach, and I'd learn so much from him. And I can't brag enough on my dad and how he trained and taught me. He instilled in me so many things, and just projects that he would have to do at the church, he would include me in and help me and teach me and train me in how to do things. And at a very young age, I was able to do a whole lot because my dad had taught me. My friends, many of them couldn't even read a tape measure. And my dad had taught me how to build things and how to work with tools and work with things mechanically and in construction and things like that. So that instilled in me a desire and a love for working side by side with him. And then as a middle-aged teenager, 14, 15 years old, and getting hired on at the church, literally working side by side with my dad was just a ultimate experience. I'd go to school, get out of school at 3 o'clock, and I'd work with him until he would leave. And then many times I'd work a little bit later because of my schedule, and then come home. And it was just incredible to be able to be side by side with him. And that started a trend, if you will. Then I transitioned to the college and then went to Iowa. In Iowa, working side by side with my wife. No one, at the church there was family. But then obviously also being able to come back every year to Dwight, as Micah mentioned, for football camp. And working side by side with my father-in-law, working side by side with my brother-in-law, and my other brother-in-law, JJ, as well, once Ruth Ann and him got married. And being able to work side by side with them as well. It's just a wonderful experience when you have a family. And again, we're nobody, we're nothing special. We're just individuals who are trying to serve the Lord, trying to follow God. And when you do that, when you all focus on one thing, Christ, there's great unity. And that's true in a family. That's true in a youth group. That's true in a church. I preach a message to young people that's called it's the byproduct unity. A lot of times young people, I had issues where they were fighting and they just wanted unity in the youth group. They wanted all to be on the same page. And I preach to them that is not the goal. That is the byproduct. The goal is to be Christ-like. The goal is to be pointed and striving to be like Christ. And when each individual has that goal in mind, naturally, as you're all going to the same point of reference, whether you're at different stages of life, no matter where you are at, as you continually strive to be more and more and more like Christ, you're drawn closer and closer together, and you can have unity. You can have unity in a relationship with your husband and wife when you're both striving to be like Christ. You can have unity in your family, your immediate family, when everyone is striving to be like Christ. You can have unity in your extended family when you all are striving to be like Christ. And you can have unity in the youth group. You can have unity in the church. And you can do some amazing things when each person in their own spiritual life has the desire to be like Christ. Do we ever achieve that? No, we're not perfect. No one's perfect. but we have the desire to be like Christ, and that creates an amazing amount of unity and power in something that you can accomplish. And I feel that's what we have at Bible Tracts, that each of us, none of us are these amazing, incredible people. We're just individuals wanting to be used of God, striving to be Christ-like. Do we fail? Yes, every single day. Micah can tell you that I fail every single day. No, but we do. We fail. We're not perfect. And I'm not trying to put us up on any kind of pedestal. I'm just saying that what you see in our life and how God is able to use us and we are able to work together as a family is simply because each person has chosen for themselves, for their life, I'm going to strive to be like Christ. And I feel that's what creates that unity.
Absolutely. And I would like to make some practical application to those that are listening, because I guarantee there are people that listen to everything you just said, wholeheartedly agreeing, but they say, I'm the only one in my family that serves God. I'm the only one that goes to church. Well, let me say this, friend. You get to be a part of the family of God. And see, this goes outside the blood relations. And maybe at some point in the future, we're not going to have time this week, but we'll talk about the fact that you, Austin, you mentioned on Monday that you're adopted. And so all these amazing things you're saying about your dad, he's not your biological dad, and yet he was and is your family. But the same thing applies to the family of God, the family of Christ. We sing that song sometimes at the conclusion of the services here at the First Baptist Church of Dwight, our home church. I'm so glad I'm a part of the family of God. And what that means, really, practically speaking, many of your best friends are just a part of the family of God. They're not blood relations. The same for me. And yes, we work together, but you were just talking to a pastor friend from down in Springfield the other day that you would count a friend. I was talking yesterday to someone that I would count a friend, not a blood relation, but the family of God. And the family of God, it goes past, present, and future. And so I'm excited tomorrow, Austin, to talk about the legacy of BTI. I know that's very important to you as well.
It is. And learning, as I learned more and more about Bible Tracts, it was amazing to see Dr. Paul's influence. And it's incredible as we look and learn more and more about him. Every person that I've ever talked to that knew him, they have so much good to say about him, how much he impacted and influenced others. And our goal at BTI is to continue that legacy, continue making an impact and influence on others for the cause of Christ.
Absolutely. And so I'm excited to talk about what God has done in the past, what he's doing right now, and what he's going to do in the future, Lord willing. So make sure you tune in for the final installment of this week of broadcasts here on the Bible Tract Echoes radio program. Thanks for listening.